What's up, guys? So a while back I was in Joshua Tree, California at the Indian Cove Campground, and as soon as I arrived I felt some sprinkles, so I set my tent up really quick, and as soon as I got my gear inside it actually started to sprinkle, and that turned into a thunderstorm. From the inside of the tent I actually had to tie some of these ties that secure the rainfly to the poles by opening the tent body door and reaching around with one hand to do so. My Featherstone tent kept me dry and shed all the rain away from the footprint, and 30 minutes after the rainfly was again dry. The footage here is from campsite number 10 in the Indian Cove Campground. And though a lot of these sites are barely big enough to park your car and throw down your tent, this one happened to be a very large one. Further, an unnamed hiking trail started right out back of the site. In this shot, you can see the footprint of a rain wash going through this day use area. And I made sure to place my tent on a little hill inside my campsite to avoid any flooding were the rain to come back in significant quantity. A little pencil cactus action here, don't get too close. And there's these huge rock outcrops throughout the campground that have been rounded through the attrition of the wind. Another notable aesthetic quality of the site and surrounding desert is the amount of greenery seen in the area. The floor of the desert seems to have an abundant supply of this green grass, and there is a certain lushness to the local system that you normally don't associate with deserts, but perhaps this is why Joshua Tree is a national park and national treasure. I noticed other campers were climbing unaided by equipment up these larger outcrops of rocks, but for my part I think I'll just stick to this small one. The color palette of the desert was really extraordinary, with its reds and blues and greens and grays, all ordered on the horizon as if I were in a virtual postcard. I walked around this outer aspect of the campground until I found a small wash that led me back to Indian Cove Road, and then I re-entered the campground and started to look around at the notable features at the entrance, and shortly thereafter the campsites on the way back to my own. There were about 100 campsites in the area, and it does take quite a while to walk from one end of the campground to the other. But here I've just filmed the first few that you see from the entrance all the way down to my campsite, campsite 10. And here we are back at the cul-de-sac where Site 10 is located. There are a few more sites on this self-same road, some of which are quite tiny. So if you are planning a trip with more than one tent, I would definitely go with the campsite 10. I drove down to the campsite's nature trail, and if you've been on any of these designated nature trails in California or the Southwest, they're generally self-guided tours with signage up every few minutes of walking. And here we are at our first informational sign, and it is the creosote bush, which apparently works as an analgesic, antiseptic, anti-inflammatory, and cough suppressant. I didn't see any rabbits, tortoises, or bighorn sheep when I was out there. I imagine I would have had to sit there quietly for an hour or two to see the general workings of the creatures in the area. The rocks in this shot were the end point of my walk, as it was starting to become dinner time and I was starting to get hungry. So there were about 2/3 of the nature trail that I did not see, though I did see the most extraordinary prints of countryside beauty that this high desert has to offer. Mountain House spaghetti never disappoints, and it's funny how they say there's 2 servings in a bag, because of course you're going to eat the entire bag. And here we are with the jet oil Minimo, which I did some fuel efficiency experiments with while I was up here, and the results can be found at the camphikelive.california.com website on my JetBoil page under the gear section. And you can see here that the Jetboil Minimo performs well even when it's windy out. You just don't want to use the lower simmer function when it's windy because the wind can blow it out. Looking good, looking good. It's hard to see in this shot, but there was a group of kids with headlamps and lanterns out in the desert doing a little night hiking, and I decided to contribute to the light pollution with a fire from a few leftover pieces of wood from last time. The moon began to rise out of the mountains in the distance, and I was able to get a few still shots of the luminous trinity of the fire, tent, and moon, which will eventually make their way over to the CampHikeLiveCalifornia.com website. Here we are once again with the Black Diamond Spot 400R headlamp, checking out the rocks behind the campground as I heard something odd in the immediate area. Here we have our desert dessert, which is the blueberry peach crisp from Backpacker's Pantry, which I have to say, though it was good, there's nothing crisp about it. It's just oatmeal and fruit together. It turned out to be a really nice night as far as temperature went. Maybe a bit too hot for the Big Agnes Repeat SL sleeping pad, but I ended up sleeping a lot that night. And the night would not be complete without a campsite mascot bug hanging out on my no-see-um mesh on the tent. Alright, see you in the morning.